Today, let's look at a very interesting and amazing topic, which is regarding the night sky. So, the ancient humans were always curious to know more about the night sky, and they have always wondered about our place in the universe and where we exist in. So, this curiosity manifested as a form of pattern recognition in order to understand the workings of the physical universe. All this curiosity culminated in our extensive study of the universe, which led to our present understanding of it. And today we have a very good understanding of the universe. We know how it began and how it will end, even. So, we are not pretty much in the dark when it comes to understanding the night sky. But in this video, I will only take a look at some of the very fundamentals of astronomy and not go into all the latest discoveries in the field of cosmology and astrophysics. But I will just give you a brief introduction about the things in astronomy that were certain for a very long time, that we knew for a very long time till from the age of our ancestors. And what are those fundamentals? To take a look at those, we shall start with an introduction to the subject of astronomy. So, as we all know, the word astronomy literally means study of the stars. So, in the night sky, we are seeing countless of stars, and studying about the stars is the main objective of the field of astronomy. And it arose as a result of curiosity about the night sky. So, the ancient humans wanted to know how the stars are there, why the stars came to be there, and why the stars are moving in the way they do. Everything they wanted to know. And despite the fact that it is one of the oldest branches of science and one of the very first developing branches of science, it is still one of the most fascinating frontiers of science, because there is a lot about universe we still don't know, despite the fact that we have come a long way. And one of the main things that I want to say, one of the main warnings I want to give is that it is not to be confused with astrology, which we do not generally regard as a science. It is mostly about fortune telling, astrology. And the next thing that I want to talk about is astrophysics. Astrophysics is the branch of astronomy. Okay, so to give a difference between astronomy and astrophysics, I would like to say that astronomy deals with the where and when. That means locating the celestial objects and keeping accurate track of time, whereas astrophysics deals with why and how. That means how the universe came into being and why the stars are shining. Everything is regarded in astrophysics. Now we can go into a little bit of instantaneous phenomena that take place in the when we look around in the world. Okay, so what happens in the daytime? In the daytime, the sun is obstructing much of the light from stars, so we are not able to see any stars. And the next thing is the sky appears blue during the daytime. And also, one of the misconceptions is that the moon is not present during day. That is wrong. Okay, moon may or may not be visible depending on the date of the month. So, in some days of the month, the moon will be visible during daytime, and in some days, moon will not be visible. Nighttime. Now, let's look into nighttime. The brightest objects in the night sky is obviously the moon. Okay, and the stars are visible during the night time. And if we look at the stars very carefully, we see that they form certain groups that resemble objects here on earth, and those groups are called as constellations. There are 88 known constellations currently as recognized by the International Astronomical Union. And there are many objects that move relative to the background of the stars. Such objects are called planets. Okay, so even the word planet itself came from a ancient Greek word which is means wanderer. So it is known that there are certain stars which appear, certain objects that appear like stars but actually wander through the night sky. They do not move in the regular patterns as followed by other stars. Those objects the ancients called planets, even though they didn't know what they truly were. Now we know that they are objects that revolve around our sun. Now let us look into what happens over a course of a day. So in a day, we know that the sun moves across the sky and it rises in the east and sets in the west. Okay, but although it does not rise and set in exactly the same place throughout a year, in different days it may rise in different places and rise at different times. And this movement of the sun in which it is rising and setting is called a diurnal motion. And when the sun is at its highest point, it is said to culminate. That means the noon, at 12 noon it culminates. Although it may not always be 12 noon. Okay. Because our clocks are not in sync with the sun. That's why the culmination is not exactly at noon but maybe a little bit different. Now let's look into what happens in the night time. Now, just like the sun, most stars are also rising in the east and setting in the west. That's because of the Earth's rotation. And there is a special star in the night sky that is called the North Star or Polaris. Now, the Polaris is a star around which all other stars are revolving around. And very close to Polaris, there are certain stars that are called circumpolar stars. That means they do not rise or do not set. Both of them they do not do. They do not rise and or set. Okay. Such stars are called circumpolar stars. Now let us see what happens over the course of a month. So over the course of a month, the sun moves at a rate of 1 degree per day relative to the distant stars. This movement is called annual motion of sun. So this movement actually occurs due to the Earth's revolution around the sun. The moon undergoes phases. It is because of the relative position of the moon, earth and the sun. And even the moon also moves relative to distant stars over a month. The planets wander through the night sky. And one of the most mysterious phenomena is that sometimes the planets can actually appear to move in a particular direction, then they suddenly reverse the direction. It is called a retrograde movement. And why it happens is because of the heliocentric model. We will get into that later on. Okay. Then what happens over a year? Let's look into what happens over a year. So, over the course of a year, the sun completes the revolution of the celestial sphere. So, what is the celestial sphere actually? Celestial sphere is nothing but, in the earlier days, we believed that the earth was the center of the universe, right? Even today, it is found that that is a good enough description for predicting the movements of the night sky. So, although it is earth that is actually moving, we can assume as if the sun is revolving around the celestial sphere. Okay. And due to this very fact, the rising and setting positions of the sun will vary, as well as the rising and setting times. At some days, the sun will rise at its earliest, some days it will rise at its latest. Okay. And now let me introduce to you to a few more terms used in astronomy. First term is that of ecliptic. So, over the course of a year, we observe the sun and we see that it appears to take a particular path through the night sky. That path is called ecliptic. Why it is called ecliptic is because of the fact that when the moon's orbit crosses that ecliptic, and either a lunar or a solar eclipse will occur, and this ecliptic is inclined with respect to the celestial equator. Celestial equator is nothing but like Earth has an equator, the sky also has its own equator. It is called celestial equator, and the angle between the celestial equator and the ecliptic is 23.5 degrees. It is called obliquity of the ecliptic. And as the sun is moving in the ecliptic, it crosses over certain constellations. Such constellations are called the constellations of the zodiac, and they are very famous from astrology. However, astrology, as I said earlier, is not a science, and the ancients used the seasons to keep track of time. So why the seasons occur is because of the tilt of its axis. How it exactly works, I will get into it in later videos. Okay, so let me now conclude this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then you can subscribe to the channel.